Welcome back to So Well Media. We're here with our full-on spoiler review and discussion of Supergirl. This is the next installment in the DC universe, directed by Craig Gillespie, starring Millie Alcock as Kara Zor-El, Supergirl, amongst many others in this movie. And I'm here with some very talented people, people dear to my heart, and we're going to talk about this movie because this is a lot of stuff been happening in these last 72 hours of this movie coming out. So there's full-on spoilers. If you haven't seen Supergirl, please go on check, even though there's not really much to spoil other than his rating. That's it. But yeah, we'll get to dive into this. We're here with some guests here. Vanessa, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk about Supergirl, and I love that we're all wearing our super shirts. And if I end up like muting myself for a quick second, it's because I have to deal with a 3.5-year-old. So yeah, but I'm happy.
No, it's all good. all good. Jay King, how you doing?
Doing good. I'm ready to finally have. I mean, I've had a lot of discussions about this film so far, but I'm glad to finally have my thoughts onto video, so we can finally just go through this thing and talk about the good, the bad, and the misconceptions about this film.
Yes. And just to give some context, is like I saw this film, several times, at least segments of this movie early. I saw about 7 minutes or so at CinemaCon. Me and Vanessa both saw it. The flying sequence of when the pirates were abducting the ship and everything with the Seth Rogen alien, and I thought that scene was good and everything, but we only got fragments of to it. I'm seeing the trailers. I'm getting really excited. And here we are, press screening, and also you have many other marketing material. We got KFC boxes for this, and Kryptonian coolers and all this stuff, right? Crypto KFC buckets. What did that tell you, right? And many sponsored influencer reactions on Warner Brothers pages and stuff and everything. So do you take their word for granted? Who knows, right? I mean, sponsored by WB, so it must be true, right? So yeah, it's been very interesting, but I want to start with you, Vanessa. Like, to the road when this movie was announced, so when we saw segments of this, we saw Millie and Jason, at CinemaCon talking about this, and James continuously talking about this movie being based off of the Woman Tomorrow storyline by Tom King, and now we got the final product. And so, what was your thoughts? Full on review.
I liked it. I thought it could be a lot better. I think Millie is transcendent as Supergirl, as Kara Zor-El. I think there's so many different versions of Supergirl in general, but even in the live action ones we've gotten over the years, she is probably my favorite, because just based on like her delivery, her attitude, the jaded disdain. Like, I think that she really captured the Supergirl that is still grieving her home planet. I think that was just really, really well done. As someone who has read and loved Woman of Tomorrow, the book, I was disappointed at the adaptation of it. I felt like the coloring, the planets, like there were so many details that they just like completely disregarded to make it look more like Mad Max Fury Road or something like that. Like, it just felt like they didn't know they didn't want to go fully into that realm, but they didn't know what to do the other direction either. So that was a little bit annoying and frustrating for me, but I got Jason as Lobo and Millie as Supergirl. So overall, I liked it a lot.
Jay King, when this film was announced, had Lobo added to the film, and again, there was also some, backlash even from, a lot of males out in the media and stuff about this film, and Fox News articles, even previous Supermen. Can we impeach previous Supermens, or like from the from just the lineage of portrayals? I don't know, but
strip them of their title. Yeah,
just stripped it, because you have to hold it with a sense of integrity and honor and respect more than anything else. But yeah, Jay King, just what are your thoughts in terms of the perception around this movie before you saw the final product?
Before I saw the movie, I was seeing, certain reviews and certain first reactions to it, praising the acting while also having criticisms towards this. And I had a lot of hope for this movie because, one, I knew that I was going to like Millie Alcock's portrayal as Supergirl, and I knew I was going to love Jason being Lobo. And also, as someone who read the Woman of Tomorrow comic when it came out in 2021 to 2022 by Tom King and Bilquis Evely, I love that comic. It's vibrant. It has a lot going on to it, especially with the characters of Supergirl and Ruthie. So I was looking forward to this film a lot. And I still stick by the verdict that I gave this film after I saw it on Wednesday, is that I loved this film. I was not in love with this film though. And I wish I was, because there's a lot of good here, but there's also a lot that clearly is a game of telephone mix up in the writer's room, a few things that they just disregarded, and a lot of things that honestly should just not have happened. I still like it, but there is definitely a lot that I feel could have been changed.
And now going into like the spoilers of this movie, right? Because the last 5 minutes of this movie with Kara and going back into Clark's apartment and, Crypto in the kitchen and stuff, to me that those 4 or 5 minutes was perfect. And I'm not talking about like, oh no, that those 5 minutes were perfect. And I wish we would got the essence of that scene, in a full 2 hour plus movie, whatever. But unfortunately, we only got piecemeal because we got Man of Tomorrow coming next year. We know she's coming back. But to me, when those scenes when we saw their chemistry together and showing the differences of who they are, to me, it just shows that Millie was perfectly cast for this role. But more importantly, that they have a very great interesting dynamic and chemistry on screen. To a point where if that's the way I'm ending off this movie, my final thought is that I'm smiling watching this, then that's where I left, where I gave this film a B-. But the road to get there was rocky. And it took me a second. I'm sitting next to friend Lucas, Nigeria, and all of them, and I'm just sitting there, I'm just like, okay, all right. I was hearing perception about this, what's going on. I'm like, let me see how this goes. And I thought the first 2 acts of this movie, actually maybe first act and a half, I'm like, all right, I see where this movie's trying to go, and I'm rocking with you. And it was until after we get to the Krypton sequences, that's where I feel like a lot of the movie got disjointed, because I'm just like, man, this is a very deep emotional scene and a segment of the movie. I'm like, man, this should have been in the beginning. In my personal opinion, I felt the Krypton stuff was probably one of the best parts of this movie, but unfortunately, where it was placed, it kind of felt for someone just watching in, just like, all right, we'll just stop the movie to go see this entire origin and everything, and it's like, man. But then I was like, what we have here was good, but I just felt like the emotional payoff for this to actually feel cohesive as a viewer, I felt it could be disjointed if they just move certain scenes around and let things play out. And also whatever was on the cutting room floor, because this movie was edited in I don't know for what, from a college assignment, whatever, whether it's in high school, I don't know. No way this could be a Warner Brothers approved editor that just chopped this movie up to where we got. But I don't know, Vanessa, what is your thoughts? Do you felt like the editing of this movie definitely was disservice to not only the actors in this movie, but also the story that we got?
Yeah, I think one of the number one things is like the difference between people. Sometimes people can't tell the difference between a bad writing job and a bad editing job. This movie was edited pretty poorly, in my opinion. I think we didn't need to see the crypto scene twice. Like we didn't need to like see her meeting him. It was just really weirdly choppy. We didn't get enough of her on Earth to like really get a sense of her displacement and feeling like a fish out of water. I feel like the flashbacks were just not placed well. And then by the time we got to the end, when she's like, I'm gonna make this my home, I felt like it wasn't earned because we were missing pieces. It was a beautiful scene. I love seeing them interact because they're very well casted together as cousins. But I just felt like it wasn't earned. Like I'm like, where did she learn that she wanted to be home? Because she's been fine like up until this point. What caused her to like? Because I know that's one of the best parts about the book is that Ruthie, she just randomly runs into this other girl dealing with trauma of losing everything, and then they go through this bond and like heal together on this wild space odyssey journey that is really beautiful and really big and bright. And this movie felt like it was trying to go in that direction and then just like cut a bunch of stuff out, and they were like, and she's good, and it was just like weirdly, yeah. So I just think that it was a poor editing job of really good source material.
JK, because I think one of the biggest criticism people had was with the scenes at Krypton. And much as some people say that it was the best parts of the movie, but in terms of like when we seen the emotional anchor of this movie, which is Krypto, getting injured, and he only got like 72 hours, before he dies, right? And we're seeing when we see Kara actually meet Krypto during the funeral of her own mother, and everything on Argo City, right? Argo City to, I believe, Andor, in terms of her city with this. Well, yeah, I keep getting it messed up. My bad. But in this scene, we're also seeing the essence of also preparing. Why is Kara feeling this way, other than this being her 23rd birthday, her self-loathing and just like, let's just stay here and or feeling like the fish out of water, to what Vanessa's point is, because I felt a lot of scenes was not earned to the point like, okay, we're missing at least a good 20 minutes of just character development that is not, we don't need a 2-hour long thing, just like, hey, how do we get her from point A to point B? But J. King, what was your thoughts? Do you feel like, in terms of Kara's emotional development to who she is, beginning of this movie, and how we get into the actual climax, you felt like her journey was disjointed by the editing?
I definitely feel like the editing hurts some of the things, because it's like, I said this before, I understand with the whole like, oh, he has 3 days to live, that this became a ticking clock storyline, but this still went very, because like even the Woman of Tomorrow comic was like 8 issues, and even though there was a ticking clock for Krypto there, again, if you know the twist of the comic, but even with that, they were still able to tell a lot when it came to their journey and to Krem and so many other things that it just went too fast. We didn't have time to live with these planets or to get more scenes with, because I think Kara and Ruthie have a great dynamic. We just needed a bit more of that. And I definitely think it starts like the Krypton and Argo stuff. That stuff was really good. I like the fact that we, unlike the Superman film, got to see Krypton's destruction, see Clark leave the planet and all that, see Argo City get created, which, again, I'll get to the whole thing when it came to the small change they went there. But it's like, I like those scenes. It's just, there are some things when it comes to the editing of this film that just make it go a little too fast. We could have sat with some of these moments. We could have sat with some of these characters. And I get it. It's a flashback. Kara's parents are not the focus of the movie, nor is Argo City. It's not like we're finding Argo like in other Superman or Supergirl storylines, but still, it's like the editing of this movie is like, it's trying to sprint. And it's like, we didn't need a sprint. We needed a road trip, if that's the best way I could put it. We didn't need... Yes. It's like, what this movie had been, because like this is a hour and 50-minute movie, it could have been like maybe 2.5 hours, just a bit more time to flesh things out and to make scenes that were good even better. Because again, I still think this is a good movie. It's just like it has some issues when it comes to the speed that it goes along with. Not to mention, again, small gripes. We'll talk about needle drops, and we'll talk about the change they made with Kara and Clark, but let's move past that for a second, though.
Yeah, because I'll get into it. I'll turn that segment to this review for that, because I have not only just Craig Gillespie, but also James too. I have some smoke for, because I think James Gunn needs to check his prescription glasses for one. The fact that he been greenlighting, saying, well, we're gonna make this a true adaptation of these characters, especially as you just dangling keys and putting the cover of Woman of Tomorrow in our faces for over 2 to 3 years of this, and that is programming to think that, oh yeah, whenever I read Woman Tomorrow, that's what I'm gonna get with this movie. But unfortunately, I have seen quote after quote after quote from many different people, the writer and director of this movie, like, yeah, I read the comic, but I didn't think, like, let's not, nah, we don't have to do that. And this is a common occurrence with comic book films, where people feel that, oh, everyone in Hollywood think, hey, look how we changed things with this, instead of saying, look what we did great with this material. And that's the part where I feel they think that comic books are not cinematic. It's just a different form of medium. That's like saying that, okay, well, we're adapting the Civil War comic. Verbatim, I can say, yeah, there's a lot of changes that were made in Captain America Civil War. But the essence of that comic, even verbatim, even certain shots, we're taking right out of the comics. And we can say, hey, that was actually a faithful adaptation, even though you have a quarter of the characters. Those are the difference. Even to the point of the consistent changes of certain DC characters and just in terms of our knowledge. For example, and we have this guy, Krem of the Yellow Hills, right? And he's being this massive, tyrant into the galaxy. Well, guess what? I know this is a comic, but this is the building of the DC universe. How is it that we went through 3 different alien planets, and yet we have this group taking these females, these women, these children, and to the point for their, what you want to call it, sex trafficking, whatever it might is, just human trafficking across the galaxy. And there's not one motherfucking Green Lantern. How the fuck is that happening? It's like, are we space cops, or are we just, that's out of our district? We let the Blue Lanterns handle that. And like, well, we're people of hope, so we don't want to intervene and create conflict. Or you want the Sapphires or the Yellow Lanterns, like, actually, nah, we got other people to spite fear in the galaxy or something. Or Red Lanterns, whatever it is. Just tell me, Parallax already happened, so you don't have a quarter of the Green Lanterns, and Hal Jordan just like, yeah, I got a bunch of rings to throw around. We're short on staff in the Green Lantern Corps across the galaxy. But is that just me? It's just nitpicking, just turns as a DC fan here. And also, this is the most inspiring, I will say, as a visual person, the most I don't know where you're taking notes from, Star Trek Discovery or I don't know, Into Darkness or with the J.J. Abrams, whatever it is, that just because we like alcohol doesn't mean that every alien planet needs to be a bar or some type of rugged thing. There's such thing as alien planets that has vast landscape and animals and creatures and color. Like, I mean, this goes to the whole line of like, hey, this universe is so dark. Are we in a DC universe? Probably, because I don't see what, like, all I saw the colors were just the different suns. That's it. Not even like landscapes. But
you want to know
anyway,
you want to know what's even worse about that is, like, when you go to the Woman of Tomorrow comic, every single planet that Bill Queese put in there was colorful, vibrant, and had its own like vibe to it that you could distinctly put those. And the fact that all of these look like they could be the same planet, like, that was terrible. Especially when one of them is named after the artist. It's like,
I know.
No.
Mm-hmm. That was,
yes.
On the one hand, I agree. I'm like, where are the damn Green Lanterns? Why didn't we see it? She's in space and we don't see a single Green Lantern, period. But on the other hand, we live in a vast universe. Like, there are like trillions of planets and like life forms and things like that. So I'm like, okay, maybe she's going to the far reaches of space where like they don't have protectors over there. I don't know. So like sometimes there are comics where they're like, this is the deepest part of the universe and no lanterns have ever gone here. But I don't know. But I agree, like every planet looked the same. Like, I don't know if we're spoiled by Star Wars or something, because I think one thing Star Wars does well, always consistently done well, is that most of the planets look different. There's an ice planet, there's a fire planet, there's jungle planet. Like every single planet looks like it was in Hell's Kitchen, and every planet had a bar that she could get drunk at. Like, it was just bizarre. And then there was this part where she was in a movie, it looked like she was in a movie theater getting popcorn and a slushie. It was so weird. Like, it was more like set pieces than an actual planet. I don't know. That was
like a space 7-Eleven, if I were to be honest. That was like a space 7-Eleven where you could get a blue raspberry slushie. I'm like, okay.
And caterpillar turd nuggets to eat.
Oh my god.
That was just weird.
Yeah, they taste like shit. Really? Oh yeah,
You don't say.
Yeah, and this is also just like the comic book, not the comic book purists to me, but when I see the biggest complaint of people online about, oh, you're expecting an adaptation of the Woman Tomorrow comic book, I'm like, no, that's what you literally told me verbatim, and I'm just saying, James Gunn, words from his mouth, said that, and yet you cannot also for the last 3 years continue to indoctrinate us with the fact of like, you even named this film Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, then you change it. Okay, we understand titles change all the time, but then you also continuously over and over again with your marketing material, with having this comic book over and just plastering on social media that, hey, this is the book, you want to watch this, you're offering it to people at the screening. You're giving them the Woman Tomorrow comic. So don't tell me, the people online, like, you're expecting to be just like the comic when you literally handed it to me right before I'm about to watch it. And I think it's disingenuous not only to your customers, but also to just DC fans who have followed this storyline for years and saying, like, listen, we understand the rap that a lot of female characters get. Like, think about it. We're here at the day after this movie came out, we had multiple different animated series and stuff announced, and then still to this day we have not had one Wonder Woman animated series, or not we have a film that says in the development or anything. But even then, just term her comic run, except like Absolute Wonder Woman, it's just there's things about where the continuation of female representation, and not only in terms of comics but also in media, and well, in terms of, there's always got to be put in the lens to micromanage, to the point that we have to go this 3 different composer. Oh, one scene I have to go through 24 different needle drops songs just to think which one's the right one, which you probably would not have done that with Guardians of the Galaxy. Again, because a male character with Star-Lord, it's different. Every time we put a female character, they have to go through all different hoops, just because, oh wait, we got to think of all the elements. What this might be perceived. Will be too feminine? Will be not too masculine? Or hey, what's the volume in her hair? Oh hey, how do we get piercings into a Kryptonian and other things like those types of things? I think for anybody we're getting sick of, but it's been a constant trend that the title of superhero films for women has not been the best, and I feel like it's not a testament to those characters, but more on the execution of the studios, on how they're not trusting their talent, but more importantly, not trusting the material that they're based off of. But Vanessa, do you agree or disagree with what I have to say?
I don't disagree with what you have to say. I think like it comes to a point when you're like, okay, you either have to adapt the comic book almost faithfully or just create your own story. Look, this is the most frustrating thing. It was like, you could have just done any story. You could have done anything. They didn't have to adapt Woman of Tomorrow. No one was clamoring for them to adapt Woman of Tomorrow. Like, it's cool that they did it, but the fact that they didn't do it all the way frustrates me. Like, we could have had anything. We could have had her landing on Earth and like Superman and Batman figuring out a way to get her acting normal. Like, there's a whole comic book storyline about that. Is Superman and Batman one of world's finest or whatever. So good. There's her Supergirl with a Legion of Superheroes. You could have done that. You could have done anything, literally anything. We didn't have to adapt Woman of Tomorrow. So that is my biggest gripe with the movie. Overall, like, I almost wish I hadn't read it before, but I read it years ago, so like it doesn't matter now. But like, I wish I hadn't read it before I watched it because I would have liked it so much more. But like, knowing the color, like, just Comet. We don't have Comet. Sorry, I'm still a little annoyed that we didn't get Comet the Super Horse, but I understand why they didn't. But that's just, yeah, I feel like we need to stop doing this halfway now. Like Marvel does it too. They adapt certain parts of it, and they don't do all. And then they're like, oh, why are people disappointed? It's because you just use the characters' names. Like, okay, we got Ruthie and Krem. Great. That's what everyone's been so excited to see. Like, DC fans have been really harping on seeing Ruthie Marie Knoll. Like, okay, I think we could have done something different. Like, I personally would have loved to see Kara and Brainiac 5. That's a really spicy romantic ship that hasn't been seen in years. That would have been fun to watch. But no, they just halfway adapted this, and then I don't know. I just felt like they lost sight of what they were trying to do with this movie and this adaptation. I don't know. Sorry, I'm done ranting now.
No. It's all good. It's all good. I mean, I agree, but and it's not even just that. It's like some people think it's like, oh, it's like, why not adapt it the full way? It's like you either adapt it the full way or you don't. There is a nice middle ground. We literally went through this with Daredevil Born Again, where it's like season 2 was more so like an adaptation of the Chip Zdarsky run and Devil's Reign, but it wasn't to full extent, but it was still a really good season. So it's like there is a good middle ground to it. It's just that I feel like what James wanted and what Craig wanted and what some of the others want, I feel like there is a disconnect, especially when you look at these interviews and them talking about the movie. I feel like there was a disconnect in terms of like what some wanted and what others wanted, what James and Peter wanted versus what Craig and the others wanted. I just feel like there's some weird disconnect that ended up making this movie partially Woman of Tomorrow while also partially its own thing. It's like it's because it's like a Woman of Tomorrow film could have worked. But
yeah, and but to your point, what you were saying, it's like it felt to me after walking out of this movie, much as I gave this a B-, I thought this was like Greg Gillespie trying to do a James Gunn movie, but yet you're not James Gunn. James Gunn can do James Gunn. Craig, what do you like? You're also a very talented director, and like again, I Tonya, Cruella was an amazing movie. I really enjoyed that when it came out, like during the pandemic or coming out of the pandemic. But like, and you also have a eye for, you know, in terms of vision and the tone with female characters. So I knew that, hey, it's not that you can't direct a female superhero film, but also, and there's also me questioning too, what would a female director would have done? You know, what a female director would have challenged James, not just on as being a writer, because we also know how writers, like, you can give me a script, but it's also the direction where you basically intended and change differently what I had on pen and paper. So it's like, you know, it's happening throughout the course of Hollywood. But what happens if a female director did this movie? Will we be in the same predicament, or were we questioning in terms of her emotional arc and how it's being executed and challenging James? Like, hey, listen, I get what you're trying to do, but this is probably not going to work for a lot of viewers. It has nothing to do with the fact of, oh, that you are a man, you don't understand women, but just saying, because I'm a woman, I know there are certain things about this character that needs to be told in the right way to actually be fully received by everybody, even both male characters as well, because we also get Lobo added into this, which I understand why he was added, because you thought that Woman of Tomorrow storyline just with these characters wasn't enough. You had to have something to draw people out. Okay, what's going to draw a lot of men into this movie? Because we can't trust just our own single character on this. Let's add Lobo. And he put Jason Momoa in this, and not saying that he was a bad adaptation of that character. Again, this is dream casting, but did he need to be in this movie? Absolutely not. And I think that's more showing of like, okay, let me add this for fan service instead of, oh, this movie would not be made if Lobo was not part of it. I cannot say that. If he was added, what much of this movie would actually change.
Yeah, I mean, I there is also another reason as to why Lobo was added, because Tom King said he was supposed to be in the Woman of Tomorrow comic, but he decided not to at like the last bit when actually writing it. So him being here is just like, oh, well, was supposed to. But it does also create the feeling of like, I loved Jason as Lobo within this. He wasn't there a lot, and it does make you question the feeling of like, okay, why was he there then? Like, he was great as Lobo. There is no denying he is great as Lobo. He has been waiting years to play this character, and he did it masterfully that I cannot wait for the moment that he'll show up again. But the question is like, what did he serve to that? It's like, okay, he had a little bit of trying to goat Ruthie into, you know, murdering Krem when she has the chance, and you know, he's there for some cool action scenes and all that, and we know why, because he's hunting a brigand. But it's like, otherwise, did he need to? Like, I like him here, but did he need to? Like, especially if he's not really palling along with Kara and Ruthie during their journey, or at least from the moment he joined in until the end, then it's like, okay, he just feels like he's just added on here as a reference to what was supposed to be in the original source material.
Yeah, and to the point about like with Kara's journey of like with Krem, because there is also changes. The fact that she killed Krem in this, right? Now, I have no issue with a Supergirl that kills, right? This has actually gotten kind of going down the line like, hey, this version of Supergirl could possibly be, you know, brainwashed by Darkseid and then have that run of her. But in my mind, she might probably don't even need a brainwashing. She can just probably just like, hey, I might believe how your way of going about things, because the Superman, he's just being too soft on people. Who knows? But my point with this movie that was missing is like, okay, one, throughout the course of the movie, aside from, you know, her mother dying and the fact that people around her are dying because of the Kryptonian or the kryptonite radiation on Argo City, and her going into and landing on Earth and meeting Clark, I felt like for her to have this type of attitude of just like, oh, the self-loathing type mess, it felt like to me like nobody wronged her in this movie, on top, like to the point of like, why does she feel like she's not, you know, don't want to be around people and not being very I'm not saying welcoming, but like to Clark, but just at the same time, it's like, it seems to me like there's something that's missing when she was on Earth, that she realized, hey, this is not for me. And I realized, hey, I need to probably do my own thing. Hey, Clark, I'm just gonna go to space and I'm just gonna chill out and figure myself out. And I feel like we missed a chunk of that, of something happened. What was Kara's first kill? Because I don't think she was a killer prior to her leaving Argo City. So like, what was your first kill? Because all the guys are dead, all of them, every last one of them that she was fighting with Krem. But I'm thinking that if you're gonna have this Batman no kill rule and be like, hey, if you take this life, it's gonna stick with you, for the rest of your life, and that's gonna change you. Okay, well, it seemed like you've done this before. Who was your first kill, Kara? That's my issue. And I was like, okay, you're doing so much to protect her for her not trying to kill Krem. And it's to a point where Lobo's like, yeah, we can just kill him right now. And then she does. And then he watches like, yes, he was happy that he killed her. But what did that do? Like, oh wait, you can't kill him, but I can, even though you just injured my dog and killed innocent people. You didn't murder my family, but it's whatever. I don't know. It's like, is that being too nitpicky or whatever, Vanessa? Like what?
No, I think it makes sense for Supergirl to be a little bit like, I know that they did that to establish like Supergirl and Superman are very different. They handle things very differently. And Supergirl has a history of, like you said, being brainwashed by Darkseid. She's been a Red Lantern because of how much anger was in her heart in the comics. She has been throughout the comics, has always fallen. There have been storylines where she has succumbed to her dark side more so than Clark ever. Clark just ends up dead in a lot of these different alternate universes because there's like no way you can spoil almost every time. I won't even mention whatever that stupid awful comic is, or that video game comic. I hate whatever. Anyway, but I will say that for the most part, Supergirl has always been written to have a little bit more anger, more angst, more something than her cousin. And I think it makes sense. It doesn't, and I think it makes so much sense that I haven't seen any discourse really about her killing him. I barely reacted to it. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like it made sense anyway. But the movie being like so adamant about her not, and giving the reason like it'll like sit with you forever and blah blah blah. And I thought though half the time I thought it was because she was like, no, if you kill him, we won't get the antidote. That's why she was being, but they made it seem like they were trying to save Ruthie's soul. I'm like, and then she just stabbed him herself, and I was like, wait, so you don't care about your soul? It just wasn't really well.
Yes, right.
But it wasn't. There was no good lead up to that. Like she just stabbed. I was like, okay. I mean, it makes sense. Like it does make sense for her narratively to kill him because he's awful. He massacres families. He presumably
Asian
rapes
families,
children.
Black families.
Yeah,
yes.
He's clearly got a target. Yeah, he's every person of color in this movie besides Ruthie got killed, and Ruthie's only like half. Anyway, regardless, I just thought it wasn't well. It just wasn't well done by that to get to that point where we're like, yeah, I would kill. My cousin doesn't kill, you know. So yeah, I don't know. What y'all think?
J. King.
I mean, I think this is why Tom King like left it ambiguous in the comic whether or not Kara and Ruthie killed him. There's a reason why he left it the way it did, because it's like here you get it, but at the same time you're like, wait, hold on, what? It's like yeah, I do agree with you, Mike. It feels like there's definitely something missing from like after Kara's powers came in when she got to Earth versus that moment she was in, I guess, her apartment looking out at Metropolis. And before she left, you know, to go party it up and, you know, be drunk and depressed. It's like you understand why, because it's like maybe she doesn't feel really like Earth is her home after only knowing Argo City for so long, and then boom, getting to Earth, having powers and expecting to be a superhero. Even with that little, like, you know, moment in the beginning of the movie with the newspaper that Krypto pees on, showing that, you know, oh, people love Superman, but Supergirl, they're like, whatever, you know, at least that's the feeling that you give. We'll see if that's still a thing in Man of Tomorrow. But it definitely feels, and we said this many times in this review, there just feels like there's many things that were left on the cutting room floor, or many scenes that got cut out that maybe we'll see when the movie comes out on digital, that many moments that just are missing from this that could have enhanced so much about this. Because it's like it leaves a lot of things frustrating when you're done with it, because you're just like, wait, hold on, what? Like Ruthie can't, but you can. And it's like, what? It's like, we'll get to Krem in a second too, because I have a lot of things to say about him, but it's just like it leaves a lot just like to be desired with this.
Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on Krem because it really was not much to like. It's MCU Phase 2 forgettable villain. Dark Elves given like Malekith, like Whiplash, Iron Man 2. Like
no, like with Krem, it's like in terms of what he brings to the other characters, I completely get it. But it's like you look at Krem in the comic, he's supposed to look like a romance novel protagonist who looks like that, but is the most diabolical person in the galaxy, to the fact that even the comic didn't want to go into some of the shit that he did on planets, unspeakable things, as they said. And here he's just a bedazzled bounty hunter that's like giddy and looks like he's a reject from Guardians Volume 2. Like, he did not need to look like that. You could have made Krem from the comic like a person who looks the nicest person out there, but is the most devious. That especially could have worked for the human trafficking angle that they were going with in this movie, but they didn't. It's like, I don't care if the rest of his crew looks like that. Have him look like how he is here, because that's creepy. Like, we talk about, it doesn't need to look like a monster to be creepy. We talked about with like movies like Obsession. We didn't need to see a freaking monster to be, scared of her in the movie. It was just scary by nature because of like, this smiling presence that has all this malice to it. That could have worked for Krem as well, especially with what they were doing with it, even if it was a simpler version of his character from the comic to movie, but they didn't. And I'm just like, I don't hold this towards the actor. I'm just like, what was the direction here with Krem?
Yeah, that's how I felt when I saw the trailer. I was like, why does he look like someone who works at Hot Topic? They could have had Gaston, like, Gaston from
Spencer's.
Yes, Spencer's. Yeah, one of those. But like Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, like, he's like so handsome, and like they could have made Krem like that. Like, it's just this gorgeous, like I completely agree. And I was like, why did they make him just look like a generic, ugly villain? Like, he looks like a Doc Martin boot. I don't get it. I didn't get it at all. I was so confused.
Yeah, and again, aside from that, I think he was just a plot device, and just what he was used to move the story from point A to point B. And again, I'm just like, he's gone, he's forgotten. Hell, I'm like, he's in jail. He can't even see this damn movie. So it's like, it's a shame, he can't see this movie right now. So it's, it's a shame.
I forgot, didn't he assault someone or something? Yeah, he like. Yeah,
no, he didn't. He didn't pay his taxes or whatever, his car insurance. I don't know what it is. But anyway.
That's so mundane. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, but one thing before I even wrap things up is about the character of Carl as we go into the future of Man Tomorrow, because when we get to the origin of Argo City, literally everyone that came out of the theater was talking. Well, not everyone. The comic book people were just like, "Hey, why did they change this?" And I'm like, I know, right? And I literally almost had a moment in this theater, because I'm literally sitting next to Lucas, Nigeria here, Sam was somewhere, and I'm just like, and then when this moment happens, like, yeah, Krypton just died and everything. Argo City, broke off, and that was 8 years before I was even born. What? Wait, so you're not? Wait, so now I'm gonna do a Watch Mojo. With characters, history, there's often different reimagining and different history to a character's past, right? I understand you want base, and what James Gunn say, well, we want to take the original version from 1959 of where she was and everything from Argo City and all that stuff, right? But there's a general consensus of for comic book people who knows Kara and knows Superman relationship that, hey, look, she was sent on Earth to protect Superman. She was protected because he was a baby and she was probably maybe 10, 12 years old, whatever. And what happens was that he landed on Earth first. She got broken off, whether to the Phantom Zone or whatever. And then through the science of space travel, she landed on Earth 30 years later. And now Superman's a grown man and she's still about 15, 16-year-old. And that dynamic is like, hey, listen, I'm sitting here to protect you, but I'm still a 16-year-old. And then that dynamic, like, I grew up on Krypton. You were just a baby. And so those things of that dynamic, especially after what you got with Superman, with the first movie about, Jor-El is, I'm gonna just send you to be a warlord and just procreate as much as you want. And then we got the line from Kara's mother saying, your little brother sent her to be Clark to be a conqueror of worlds. So that has not changed. So that is literally what's going on here. And also nitpicking, there was no House of L sigil at all in this movie aside from their costumes. Again, this is Krypton we're talking about. Where's the house? Where's your symbols? Where's your family house of nitpick? I'm taking the show from Krypton. It's whatever. Anyway, but still, Why did they change that? It's not. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be something that's gonna be an end all be all for me, but it's something that's a fundamental thing I know about their relationship that really it takes some time to getting adjusted to. But Vanessa, what was your thoughts on that when that moment happened?
I did not like that at all. I was like, what is the point of this change? I get it. They're trying to simplify things for new audiences. I understand that. But the core of a huge piece of their relationship is the fact that she is younger than him, but more knowledgeable of their home. And like that she has it was interesting to see her adapt to Earth and her powers as a teenager and as a young person anyway. And like how her and Clark's differences like make them a formidable pair. That was really fun in the comics, and every single comic has kind of and I believe every other live action version has kind of followed that thing. So I really don't know why they made this change other than to just simplify it for audiences, because they're like, well, she was in the Avengers, like I get it, but it's still, I don't like it. I like the concept of him actually being younger than her, but not really. Like I really like that, but maybe that's confusing for people. The Jor-El thing, I assume that they're just following the DC Rebirth story where Jor-El ends up being a villain, and he's the reason why John Kent was aged up or whatever. But I don't like that either. So I don't know what's going on with why they're like making small changes to the L's, and like I don't know. I'm trying to let it go, because at the end of the day, like it's really not that big of a deal. But it really bothers me as someone who has been reading super comics since I was a child. It just, there's so many just unnecessary changes, like saying Bruce Wayne's parents were murdered by Brainiac, or like, I don't know, some other random villain. Like, it's just like, there's just they wouldn't make those changes. And actually, we don't know, because we don't have a DCU Batman yet. James Gunn could just very well be like, actually, Martha Wayne's alive. What? Okay. Like, I just... like that just feels like just superfluous changes because they want to make it their own universe and like slightly different from the comics, which I get it, but I don't know. I don't get it. I get it, but I don't get it. Anyway, what about you, Jay?
Yeah, no, I just remember, like, I didn't think about it at first, but when I got out the theater and I was on the car ride home, I was like, wait a minute, what the fuck? Like, that's literally I'm like, wait a minute, like, no, because for anyone who knows, it's like, again, Kara is supposed to be, even if she physically doesn't look it, the older cousin. She's supposed to have grown up on Krypton right before the destruction. See Clark, get out. Like, there are many ways you could do it. You could have them both leave the planet at the same time, but she gets caught in an asteroid field and put into cryosleep, or she gets put in the Phantom Zone, or she's on Argo City with them, but there's a time dilation where Argo City is, and so while things are moving slowly there, a lot is moving past along the galaxy. Many adaptations have done it within comics, animated shows, video games, even live action with the CW. They still got that correct. So it's like when you get to here, and she said, and we see the destruction of Krypton. Like, I'm literally looking at the entire time that Kara's parents are running away and Clark's pod is going away. I'm like, wait, where's Kara at? I'm like, where's she? Like, like, even if she's like child Kara, I'm like, where is Kara at? Like, oh, maybe she
find crypto or something.
Right,
before,
right. Could have done that too, like finding crypto and got found by like another family member in the House of L, or she's finding crypto and then her parents get it and then they get into Argo City and all that. Like, there could have been, and then she's like, oh no, that was 8 years before I was born. I'm like, excuse me, what? No, like, that's one of those things you don't change. You can change how she is younger than him, like he is a baby, she's a little kid, and how it works. You don't change the fact that she's the older cousin, because that really goes into who she is as a character and why, especially for her, in terms of the anger that she has, or the resentment that she has, or the feeling of longingness for the world that she has. It's just one of those core elements of Supergirl that you don't change. No matter what reboots or anything happen comic wise, you don't change that. And they did here, and I'm like, why? Like, I've gotten over the whole thing last year when Superman with Jor-El and the whole year of Conqueror and all that shit. This though is just something I can't get over.
But yeah, and it also, for the reason, like when she said I have no people, if that's the case, and then this is your only sense of what Krypton is left, you will cling to Clark more. But this, you're being reluctant of being around him, because it's just like, well, yeah, but like his heart is too young and everything. Like the line of saying your heart is too young, yeah, because you're a child and I was older than you. Like, that's like those things where I'm just like, is that not common knowledge? Like for any, and this is like DC fans for us talking as James is the one saying like, hey, these are for true DC fans. This is the way I made the DC Studios logo and everything. You must be a true DC fan if you understand what I did in the references of that, right? No, but as we wrap things up, I want to just talk about the future and like, yes, we can talk about the past of how things are, but moving forward, where we are, we know that Millie will be back in Man of Tomorrow next year with a far bigger cast than this and under a different writer. And honestly, I don't know after knowing Jon Stewart, Hawkgirl, Brainiac, and other Green Lanterns, and Lex Luthor, and maybe Steel, who knows? In this act, black male actors, could be Martian Manhunter or anybody, it's whatever. He's black. He's only have five characters he can play. At least 3 of them now have been taken. So that just pick whatever. And I'm trying to think of where Millie's gonna fit in this in terms of, is she gonna be alongside with Superman moving forward and make this more of a super family now, because again, it's like you have now Supergirl, who might have Steel or at least a mention of other characters down the line. But my questions for you, Vanessa, is like, where do you see, as we're wrapping this video up, is like where you see Millie moving forward in the Superman family, or possibly in the future the DC universe?
I think that there's a reason why they established she's a killer in her movie, because I have a feeling there will be some tug of war between her and her cousin about how to permanently deal with a villain or an issue. I have a feeling that's going to come up in Man of Tomorrow. I think they're going to be a little at odds in that, and I want to see more of that dynamic. I want to see them at odds over their choices to do superhero differently. And as for the future of the DC universe, I really would like to see, I've already mentioned them, the Legion of Superheroes and Supergirl like being a part of that. Like, I don't care. If James Gunn is on his, I'm gonna pluck these obscure stories and obscure characters and make them big like he's done with other characters in the past, Peacemaker, Guardians of the Galaxy, I think he should turn his attention to the Legion of Superheroes, because there are no characters more suited to James Gunn treatment than Matter Eater Lad and Cosmic Boy and Colossal Boy or whatever. There's so much, Triplicate Girl, like, and Supergirl being a part of that, and the fact that she has a deep ties to Brainiac 5, and like the tussle between Brainiacs, and we're getting Brainiac, we are in Man of Tomorrow. Like, I just feel like that would be a nice move to that, like, and we could see her in the future. It'd be cool to see the future of the DC universe in the 35th, 4th century or whatever they're at. That is where I hope to see her. But in terms of reality and the box office returns on this movie, I don't see her leading a movie for a while, in my opinion. So that is my opinion. What about you, J.K.?
I think that, and first off, for anybody saying that this has destroyed the DC, no, stop it. This is like the second movie, technically
So
third
dramatic.
if you count the Suicide Squad. This is technically
Fire
like the
James
second or
Gunn,
third
fire
movie.
him.
Yeah, no. For anybody who's crying for Daddy Snyder, he's not coming back. And for anybody who is saying that this is the end of the DCU, no. All right, we still got many other projects coming out. We got Lanterns in August. We got Clayface in October. We have Man of Tomorrow next year. Mr. Miracle, which has been getting more information. So it's like we got other things coming in both live action and animation wise for the canon of the DCU, and also uncanon, like the Batman Part 2, for example. So it's like, no, like, one project that sadly was not as good does not mean that everything is falling apart. But in terms of her future, I definitely think we will see, even with this way this movie has been seen, I think we will still see Supergirl a lot. Again, we'll see her next year in Man of Tomorrow. A Legion movie would be good. Maybe her teaming up with some other cosmic characters along the lines, especially as we get more of like, the new gods, for example, starting showing up, see her interact with more cosmic characters. Well, also more, just more characters in general, maybe get to a Justice League Unlimited of sorts, where we just see a random assortment of characters that she gets to hang out with. Same thing with Lobo too. I'm pretty sure we will definitely see him again in the future as well. Again, especially with knowing his ties to the new gods, and especially with them again with Mr. Miracle, we will definitely see them. These characters are not going anywhere, but I definitely think that in terms of the box office reception, how much we see them is based on how people feel about Supergirl after this. and maybe also how they'll feel about her after Man of Tomorrow, because it really just depends on how what people want to see. We'll still see Supergirl. It's not like Supergirl is gonna get like chucked to the Phantom Zone or Crisis on Infinite Earth like immediately just because this movie did not do as well as we would have hoped. But I definitely think this is going to hopefully be a lesson in, like, look, if you want to tell a certain story, there just needs to be a cohesive idea and a cohesive trust between the studio, the writer, the director, visuals, and all that. There needs to be a cohesive narrative and a cohesive vision. And if that vision does not align, you need to do what Daredevil Born Again did: reshuffle. That is the best way I could put it.
Now, to that point, where I end off with, do I think if this is the worst we will get of a DC movie, in this universe, I think we're going to be just fine, because even with like moving forward with this movie, just like, it's not, with people not saying it's a Madam Web or not a Craven or anything like that. It just, and I think the frustration of that there was a good movie in here, and just kind of just felt like it just got destroyed in the editing bay, and just like a lack of cohesion that could have made this just a completely complete film. And that's really what's the most frustrating part for people. But aside from folks just over rage baiting about it, and or people just overly loving it and being like, hey, no, there's some structural problems here. My thing is more on James, is that, listen, that Millie is a win for this movie, and now when you have her in your movie, please shoot her with care, because you're still shooting Man of Tomorrow, but this is a bigger problem that I have to talk to James about, because this is also another problem I had with Peacemaker. Along with this, is that this is now two for me, that James has been overly hyping your projects and saying you're not greenlighting anything before you approve a script, saying that, hey, pay attention to this because this is going to be the leading to the big story, overarching story of the DC universe. And I'm watching here, I'm like, what overarching thing? There is no Brainiac tease at all in this movie, right? And unlike with Marvel, you have no restrictions aside from maybe milestone characters. You have no restrictions on any of your characters but yourself, right? And every time that I've seen you been gassing up these projects and stuff, and really, and we've seen the final product, there's only one feeling that I have every time. I had it with Peacemaker, and I had it with this movie.
I am sick. I am sick of your shit. And when I'm not sick, I'm tired. I am sick and tired.
And I'm saying, you got this 2 strikes for me, James. You got one more. And listen, I think Man Tomorrow is gonna be great. And I love Lanterns is coming out in 2 months. Lanterns is coming out in 2 months. And at worst, this could make a grown man cry. Listen, if this doesn't deliver, because this is the black man now we're talking about. These are black characters I waited 20 years to see. And if I see this show being asked, man, I don't know. Like, y'all, I need a defibrillator after this. If this doesn't hit, man, like, I'm just saying, I need a win. I with some characters. I'm fine if it's Supergirl. If it's okay, whatever. But if Jon Stewart don't hit, man, that's gonna hurt. Man, that's gonna hurt me into my core. But do I think the DC universe is going to suffer because we have either a mid or not well received Supergirl movie? No. But do I feel that this universe will suffer if we have a mediocre Wonder Woman movie with this writer also attached to that script? Absolutely. And this is not just on to the writer, it's also to who you have directing it, which I believe should be a female director to assign to that product. That's a pillar character. We understand Batman's on delay because of Matt Reeves, but these are pillar characters that you have to make sure that you have to treat with the utmost respect and care. And you had arguably one of the best female superhero comics in the last few years, with Woman Tomorrow being part of that conversation in top 10. We can probably say that arguably, and now you have Wonder Woman in this character, and also possibly Jason Momoa's girlfriend in this. We don't even know what you have plans for Wonder Woman, but I'm saying this after with the reception of this movie, I need you to check your prescription. I need you to get on the phone with a lot of female directors, because there's a lot of them out there just waiting for their phones to be answered, and talent is not the issue. And I'm telling you, man, if you prioritize scripts, you need to have someone also to challenge you on terms of how the depiction of these characters and also how these stories are going to be woven together. And I need you, after Man Tomorrow, I need you to take a seat out of the writing chair and out of the directing chair and be more of the CEO and co-CEO chair, and actually delegate your universe as a producer and actually be hands-on like this, and making sure that you're not stretching yourself too thin. Because I saw you at that Supergirl red carpet. You look exhausted, my guy. I'm just saying, I saw your wife talking to Brandon David, and I'm telling you, I saw he didn't even want to talk to any of the press there. He was just exhausted. But I'm just saying this as someone who care for James Gunn and for his material. I hope that we move the DC universe in the right direction. And but Millie Alcock definitely was a win. And I just want us to have a cohesive DC universe. And maybe in 5 years' time, we can look back and just laugh at this. Like, hey, you remember that? Everyone reacted, telling fire James Gunn. And we're in good times now, you know? I hope we're in that. I hope that we're into a brighter future, a better tomorrow, you know? Yes, there. But make sure you subscribe button, comment, like, and share. Let us know your thoughts on Supergirl. Did you like it? Are you part of the bandwagon hating on this movie? Or you thought there was just some fundamental criticism that we discussed here on this video? Make sure you also follow Vanessa. All her links and everything will be in the description box below. And yeah, right. And VanessaShark.com and everything. Yes. And also follow J King as well. We got more videos and stuff going on, and Comic-Con is just around the corner. You will see some of us do coverage and all that down the line. So we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.